What is up, the YouTube Steem blockchain? So today I want to do a video that I'm gonna call Steem is like Hogwarts. So I was reading a Lewis Thomas, which is a YouTuber, and he's using 3Speak, and there was one post that got downvoted, and I was reading some comments about it, and it was interesting to sort of read both sort of sides of the arguments. One thing that's kind of interesting with Steem blockchain is sort of sometimes see what people are sort of saying in comments, and um, and eventually you sort of get a better view on things, and like sometimes you can take some stuff away, sort of learn something new. So one of these concepts that I sort of find interesting is this concept of in many ways, I think that people want to sort of group Steam into, oh, it's just like all these other platforms. It can be replaced. But it's a different beast altogether. It's a different beast altogether. Why? Because it really does remove a lot of authority structures that people sort of rely on in other systems. Uh, on Steam, you actually have to, like, you don't have this authority structure that's like laid down and very clear as you have with a lot of other systems in the world. So it's a different beast altogether, and and uh, and what I sort of see a lot of people struggle with is sort of the transition phase where they're moving from all these private companies and using their social medias, and then moving into this ecosystem where in many ways it's more about trying to build long-term sort of relationships and sort of looking at it more as Hogwarts and Harry Potter, where you have years you have to go in that sort of school until you can level up. But at the same time, in that school, you have a lot of freedom there, but you still have to take a lot of responsibility, and you still have to like educate yourself in that sort of system, or you're not really gonna know all that the Hogwarts school has to offer. You can call this the Steam school, and Steam in many ways really is a school where, I mean, in many ways it kind of is like Hogwarts. You have the Voldemort, you have the good person, and so on. I mean, it kind of is a bit like that. Like you have all the people in sort of the school, right? Compared to, well, if you're looking at these other sort of platforms, you're never really allowed to become an adult in many ways. It's very sheltered. It is you always have to like find new people, but building relationships on these other kind of systems, it's more like, oh, I'm the main guy and everyone else is just a follower. While on the Steam blockchain, how it works more is, well, you're actually dealing with adults here, and you actually have to try to build some form of relationship or actually provide very special value that someone may want or something like that. It is weird. It's very, very different, to be honest, especially when the all social medias, when this idea of followers and likes and clicks, when that all is going to fade away and become totally pointless, because we realize, oh, with these new like blockchains, if you just become an adult, then we can just measure proof of brain, and it's just better because everyone can just be adults and everyone can just focus on the long tail aspect of things. So one thing I don't think people understand that much is, well, with these other systems, they can print money faster right now. For example, YouTube, it can print money way faster because fiat is being printed limitlessly. But the main value on these new systems is, well, first, yeah, you're being paid from stakeholders. So in many ways, that has more value, even if it's a lower value. If you actually can convince a person to sort of pay you to do something, that is, you don't just get the value, you get a relationship long term that can flower into something else. So the long tail aspect of this is like super, super fascinating because, well, eventually you can have a system where instead of having to need like 100,000 random followers, not that's not even real relationships or whatever, you can just have a few that is like super niche value to some people that want some specific value or whatever, and it's just way easy, way more efficient, way better to manage, and it's kind of interesting. So just in Harry Potter, people that are sort of in that school, they know it's like it's not a nice place, but it's fantastic. And that's one of the concepts that I made in the past. And Steem, in a way, also is kind of the same thing. Well, yeah, I mean, if you go back to those old kind of platforms, you realize, oh, they don't really know that much intelligence yet. I mean, they haven't really been exposed to that. And then it's like, okay, well, they don't know that much. They still think this like thing is a thing, and it's like, no, we can do this now. It's way faster if you just have some trustless system that just creates value faster, and the content creators can just focus on what they're doing, and it's just is and this Hogwarts school, I mean, it's really not for everyone. I mean, it really is a specific kind of people, and I think in many ways it is yeah, it's a specific kind of people. And I've been considering this about in the past. Like, I'm not sure where those other people that are using the old like social media, where they're gonna go in the future. I'm not even sure if they're gonna go to Steem, because it's a very unique culture in many ways, and I'm not really sure how they're gonna relate to tokens and stuff like that. And proof of brain, like even the concept of proof of brain, we think in many ways, maybe some people think it's like super big, but it's really it's really really niche community that in many ways like have gone deep into sort of exploring stuff, and started to think more. And I'm not really sure how it's going to play out, but it's still sort of interesting to sort of see. And it's kind of, it's we should remember that creating a dollar from nothing, that's being created, maybe if you get a vote or something like that, like if you want a dollar from the mainstream masses, yeah, you need 1,000 people to click on something or whatever. But the problem is, yeah, sure, you can make value that way also. But the problem is, it's not long term retained in some responsibilities. Like, people think they can, in many ways, they're milking the fiat system and the mainstream, like, oh, we can just feed them whatever, and we don't have to care about proof of brain. But eventually, you have a lot of people that don't know how to interact with the most amazing technology. You don't have people that sort of try to work up and build real relationship, global relationships with other people. And it's like eventually that's sort of it's not a good system. It's not a good system to have one person has 1 million followers, and that just screams or whatever, and yeah, they use printing value. But if they're not distributing that to other people, it's like you have to look at the long term of this. It's like actually building up a real people. When they actually being built up, you have way more influence eventually in a network, because those people can eventually reach a lot of people. And it really takes a different sort of mentality in many ways. Proof of brain, eventually, if it works as it should slowly eventually move the right people to the top. But now I'm talking about like this is like a 20-year old process, where it takes a very, very long time to see who really wanna go that sort of STEAM school path. And it's probably, from what I'm seeing, is like there's a lot of content creators that are very dedicated, consistent in a way different way than how they are. So, for example, on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram, because on those platforms they know that they can't really use intelligence, like real intelligence. They can't like really be a thinking person. They sort of have to try to not think too much. While people are a little bit more, or they're way more empowered on these new systems, and it's almost like they've come to terms in many ways that yes, this is sort of in a way a Steem school, and they see kind of the long-term aspect of it. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. So main concept I wanted to mention a little bit was that concept that yeah, it is Steem is a little bit like Hogwarts in many ways, like in Harry Potter. So it's going to be interesting to see how it continues to evolve. I think Steam blockchain in many ways attracts a lot of people that really are passionate about intelligence, and people that are just fed up with slower systems, and that just want to innovate much faster. And you can't really innovate that much quick in older systems. They already lay down, and yeah, it's kind of boring for a lot of people. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Have a great day, DTube and the Steem blockchain. Bye bye.